Good morning from up here in my bed, in my van. So, here comes another possible chance to talk about exactly what I'm talking about, because it sounds like there's a car that's going to pass. Although I see Peter right by my door and he's not chasing this car. So maybe I should respect their choices. It's so funny though. So for those of you who have been watching my channel for a long time, you'll know that I had a video, what was it called a long time ago? I think proactivity versus reactivity, where I talk about, and which was based on a really great book that I still highly recommend by Yehuda Berg called The Power of Kabbalah. And it was all about, choosing proactivity over reactivity, especially in really high stakes situations. And then during the video, my dogs start chasing a car. And I'm like, this is the perfect example, because proactivity versus reactivity, and this is like the hardest, most difficult thing for me. And it was, and it is like really like high stakes, And what I realized though this morning, as I heard a car coming, and I'm back home and I'm just out in the driveway and I have the door open so the dogs can just like come in and out of the van the way that I always have it when we're on public land. But I heard a car coming and I was just like, I heard a car coming really fast. And all I thought to myself, like, I just stayed in bed. Like, there was literally no unconscious freaked out reaction of like getting out to go control my dogs, basically. And I was just like, the only thought I had was just slow down. And I heard the car slow down and I heard my dogs go bark at it and kind of, chase it a little bit. And then like the car slowly drove away. And I was just laying in bed and I was just thinking like, wow, this is sort of the next level of, I didn't really think this, but like this is sort of the next level of the proactivity versus reactivity. Whereas before, even though I was beginning to understand those ideas at the time, I can't even go there with even though I was like consciously trying to control my thoughts and calm down and be positive and let the light in, like I was freaking out when my dogs chased cars. And, maybe in a lot of ways it's still a bad thing. And people who are watching this are like, you crazy person, your dogs could die. Well, that is true. And I do want to say, in a larger context, we're all going to die. I'm not saying that I willfully want to let my dogs die, but I do want to talk about something that Polly Young Eisendrath talks about. Oh, there they go right now, chasing a car. I can hear them barking. That car's going really slow though. Something that Polly Young Eisendrath talks about in Our Divine Dialogue, which is this, she talks about how we always say to people now, like, stay safe, stay safe, stay safe. And that is just ridiculous, because we can't actually be safe in this life. Or in a larger way, we are always safe, because we are all more than these mortal bodies, whichever way that you want to think about it. But like, those who are born in this world are going to die. And trust me, it's not going to go well when either me or my dogs leave each other first in this life. It's easy to talk about now, but of course, if they got hit by a car, that would be very difficult, beyond difficult. Would I blame myself? The way we blame ourselves for things, I think, is really a misperception. It's this idea that, like, everything is our fault, when I think really, and this is something to riff on more and more, and I do look forward to hearing your thoughts on it. But I just think that proactivity versus reactivity, for instance, would be like, it's more proactive to just calmly allow what is happening to happen and let the light in of like, is it objectively, universally bad for my dogs to chase cars on our, so just in general? And it's like, no, it's not actually. It's something that we obsessively have labeled as bad because no one wants to be blamed for a dog dying. The owner, and I talked about that actually in the proactivity versus reactivity vehicle. You know, the owner who let that happen, the which supposes, right, that like also dogs don't have agency over their own, and that like nature and the sort of the great unfolding doesn't have any agency of its own outside of ourselves, and that bigger thing which we are part of. And I do think I'm gonna have to go get them though, just because this road has gotten so busy. And the other problem with it is that it's not always necessarily a bad thing, because you know what my dogs do? I mean, I was just thinking about this, and I'm not necessarily trying to justify so much as to notice how far I've come since, when did I record that video? Like 6 months ago. I'm not trying to justify this so much as noting that, which is that it's not always bad for them to chase cars, because you know what they do? They slow cars down. And such a big part of my trip. And it makes people realize like there are animals on the road. And I don't want my dogs to be sacrifices for that. Like, they're my best friends in the world. It's just that also, if you've been watching my channel, many of you know that a big theme of it has been saving animals that are fallen on the side of the road and doing ceremonies with them and honoring them, and it's made me realize so much. And I, again, as you know, I have still hit animals. I am not without that devastation of experience, but it does make you realize, wow, like I can slow down from the speed limit. Even I can leave earlier, or I can just not, if it's possible, maybe begin to live a life less enslaved to the clock, which is not actually time, but just a symbol of it, that makes me feel like the most important thing is that clock, and that's more important than lives lost. So I'm just saying, like, I had that thought this morning of like, it does make cars slow down for my dogs to come bark at them and chase them. Now, it could be at the detriment of their own life. I still realize that. It's just that in a larger way, I'm outside of this obsession of needing to prove that, first of all, like, I'm a good dog leader, because I don't let my dogs chase cars. Well, I mean, I think there are different ways and in different contexts to be a good dog leader. I'm sure a lot of people would really argue with me about this, like, that my biggest responsibility is keeping my dogs safe. But if I can be honest, the honest truth is that I was actually always more worried about people thinking that I was a bad dog owner and not a perfect person, about my dogs chasing cars, always have in all contexts, in all situations, than about my dogs getting run over by a car. Because I know how athletic and capable and aware my dogs are. And I'm not saying that they still couldn't get hit. I don't want to be, again, reckless and taking that for granted. I'm just being honest about the root of my fear. Like, that reactivity of freaking out about that was more so coming from a place of, oh, people are gonna like talk shit about what a bad dog owner I am, than actually being afraid that they were gonna hit my dogs. So, I don't know, just noting something on the journey, and maybe something that you think about is like, what is something that I have just like taken for granted that no matter what is like not okay and a bad thing? And maybe in some contexts or in some larger way, like, it might be interesting to know why you think that, or where that fear is really coming from, or in ways that it could actually be a good thing and that it's all relative. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that, and I'm probably going to go get my dogs now because I don't want them chasing cars all the time. No, it's just that it was so cool for my reaction instead to be like, slow down to the car. Instead of like, oh no, I have to jump out and run out and show these people how much I care about my dogs. Like, I know how much I care about my dogs. I know how much I care about my dogs. And part of their proclivity is, unfortunately, sometimes chasing cars, or sometimes fortunately. And again, you know, I want my dogs to be with me for as long as absolutely possible. But this idea that our mortal bodies are ever safe on this earth, and trying to obsessively control and corral that to keep each other safe, you know, which also goes with the driving slow thing, I guess, too. It's like, not like that can necessarily make us or animals safe. I guess it's all just about mindfulness, and that mindfulness is always relative in every moment. Here's a little piece of it for this morning. I'll probably change my mind tomorrow.